So today we're going off-road, which I always recommend you do on your property. Walking on your roads is good. Walking off your roads lets you see all the stuff you can't see from on the road. This is a 20-foot or so section of wet ground that normally you can't truck across this without risking losing a boot. But today it's still frozen, and so we'll be able to safely navigate, and we're going to take a saunter up this slope and investigate a little stand I was looking at yesterday. Little shot of what we're looking at here. This stand hasn't been touched in over 40 years, so this is Mother Nature. Rotting fir, a few uproots, but there's certainly a bit of wind throw going on through here. But
and blowdowns, the sky.
That's what wind throw is.
Okay, broken off versus...
Oh, yeah, I'm not quite sure what the technical terminology is to distinguish between the two, but yeah, they're half-rotted trees that simply succumbed. See a couple of cedar, but it's pretty much fir and white birch.
And chickadees.
We'll harvest the chickadees.
They're cute.
So this here is a balsam fir and a bit of white birch stand, but at this density I think it's appropriate to call it a thicket.
Sure is.
As far as I know, nothing has been cut in this area for at least 40 years.
I think it's longer than that, because I think when Dad had it harvested, wasn't it back in the 70s?
Yeah, late 70s would make it 42, 43 years, whatever.
I was thinking earlier in the 70s, but...
So what I want to do is we're just going to find a tree, and with my trusty pruning saw, we're going to cut them and see if we can count some rings and see exactly how old some of this, I was going to say crap, but we won't say that, what some of the stuff is. Okay, so this is our victim. He's probably a little over 2 1/4, possibly 2.5 inches in diameter. Probably a bit over 20 foot tall. So we're going to cut him and find out exactly how old this little feller is. Timber!
It's not going to hit me, right? I never knew before how dangerous videography could be.
What's that?
I never knew before how dangerous videography could be.
Exactly.
Okay, what do you got? Okay, go ahead.
So this is the center, but frankly, we're too dang old. We're going to have to take this home and dig out a magnifying glass to see.
You're not taking the whole tree, right?
Oh no. Well, if you want to carry it.
No.
It just looks to me like there's more than 40 rings there. But anyhow, we'll cut him off and do a proper examination at home and see what we can tell you. If you continue to read and study up on woodlots and so on, I came across, I don't know, a number of years ago, I believe it was Forest Connect series, that talked about the green myth.
Myth?
Myth.
M-I-T-H. Myth?
Myth.
Okay.
And it's certainly where I was at just 10 years or so ago. You walk out in your woodlot and you look around and everything's green and you think, wow, you know, everything's okay. Well, depending on how you think of okay, it's not necessarily true. The other thing is, you know, lots of people think, you know, cutting down trees is just horrible and terrible and so on. But within a limited extent, Mother Nature cuts down trees all the time. We just, on our way up here, showed you a few trees that Mother Nature took out. That wasn't loggers, that was Mother Nature. Right now, when I look at this, and I know if you're doing a plantation and you plant trees like every 6 foot apart, that's roughly, I think, pretty sure, roughly 2,000 stems per acre. What we're looking at here with trees as close as 2 and 3 inches apart, it's almost never more than a couple of feet apart. We're probably looking at an average, I would guess here, of about 4,000 stems, trees, per acre. Mother Nature, given another couple hundred years, and that 4,000 is likely to become something that resembles like 200.
Okay, because you said 2,000 a minute ago about plantation.
That's plantation. This is a lot thicker than a plantation, right? That's why these trees are suppressed and so on.
Yes.
And even with a 6 foot plantation, later on in their life, those trees have to be thinned.
Just like carrots.
Just like carrots. So somewhere along the line, what we're seeing here is Mother Nature's going to take out well over 3,000 of these trees.
Or we can help her along.
Or we can help her along.
And speed the process a bit.
Exactly. So this is what a skidder rut looks like. And that occurs because you allow people with heavy equipment to work on your property when the ground is soft and wet, and basically they're just churning it up. And if this was the only consequence, this little rut that's basically healed, but there's a lot of soil that's been washed out of this, and that, you know, downstream from here, down this slope, is a brook that's now loaded with silt, and we'll take you down towards the bottom and show you what happens down there.
I don't know how well it shows, but you can hear water trickling running down this. This is down a little further on the slope.
It's down at the bottom where you really notice the consequences.
Okay, so we're down just a little further, and this comes down to our wood road.
So of course it's down here that the water starts to pool where it levels out. The high stump that you see there with a couple of branches sticking out of it, that was a wind throw that had gone across the road. And of course, as soon as I cut them, the stump stood back up again. But there to the right of him is a wind throw from this year. That's because he's completely out of the way, I'm just planning on leaving him alone.
Let him rot. So is this because of the skid trail? Or is this just a wet area and would have happened anyway?
Well, who knows that for sure, right? We'd have to go back before that harvest and assess what the conditions were here then. And I certainly wasn't around then, so I can't make any judgment as to, you know.
But certainly having a skid trail that the water can just run straight down isn't, I wouldn't think that would be a best practice for putting in your trails.
It's concentrating the water flow into a very specific area and making it wetter than it would have been had there not been that trail.
Okay, so let's head on back to the house and we'll have a look at that little hunk of birch and see if we can see how old it was.
Okay, well, we've tried our very best. But we're going to have to fake it here somehow, because in all honesty, even with this light and magnifying glass, there's the center is really totally unreadable. But if we guess that there's probably within that center area here maybe 10 or 15 years, and then too, I cut this tree up at about a 4-foot height, so there's possibly another 4 or 5 years of growth that would have shown up if we had cut it down low. And then we blew up a photo of it and started counting there, and you counted how many rings?
I think there's about 25 beyond that center section.
Yeah. So it's really a guess.
Around the 40 years sounds realistic.
Around 40 years seems to be. So we also have the photo with the tape. 2 1/8 inches inside the bark is what 40 years of growth has created.
In the thicket.
So that's not storing a lot of carbon over a 40-year period.
Or providing a lot of heat in the stove.
Right. Yes, your firewood supply would be, very depleted if. So anyhow, this is part of the green myth. You look at your trees, and because everything's green, you think everything's okay. You know, in a proper environment, this tree, I'm guessing, would certainly be 4 inches, likely 5, 6, even 7 inches in diameter. It would be approximately have perhaps 4 times as much volume to it as this piece does. So, you know, just because they're growing doesn't mean they're doing well.
So thin it out is the solution to assisting Mother Nature in.
Well, the only problem is, and I can't say for sure about this white birch, but certainly I know absolutely balsam fir, suppressed for this length of time, you can thin it, but it's not going to do well. It's not going to resume growing at any significant pace.
So it would have to be done early.
Yes. Oh yeah, you have to, especially with these early succession trees. Trees like red spruce, hemlock, you know, you can free them up when they're 100 years old and they will resume growing at a fairly decent rate. But I know Ralph Nyland, he's a fairly major forestry prof, in fact, and has written a number of books. And Ralph says, once a runt, always a runt.
Are you looking at me?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
that would apply.
It's a good example.
There you go. So thanks for watching.
Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment, ask questions if you want. If you know more about this than we do, by all means, share it with others.
And us.
And us, yep. We're still learning, so this is not a one-way street.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Stay safe.